His talk is about sneakers, and so let's start.
Hello, can you hear me? Uh, so yes, good morning. Today I'm gonna talk a little bit about sneakers. I've been working with sneakers for the last 6 months, but I didn't push any changes on the last month because I was on vacation. And it's sneakers because it's my favorite chocolate. So I'm an engineer at the Times. I'm basically working on the video team. I've been working with video for a while. I'm from Brazil. And basically, this is my GitHub, Twitter, and sometimes I write some stuff on my blog. And that's it. Basically, I've started working at the Times. It's been 2 years. I was working on VHS, which is basically the JavaScript player that we have, and I decided to switch to the Media Factory team. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Media Factory team. But basically, we take care of the whole video lifecycle at the company. So this is going to be kind of like a talk. I will not like show code. I will not like code with you guys. I will basically like tell my story, tell the story of sneakers. I will try to do like some demos. But the talk, the presentation is organized as it goes. It's like context. I would try to bring a little bit about what we are doing at the Times, what are the components that we are working, my motivation to start writing sneakers, how it works, and the future. So during the last 10 years, I was not at the Times, but we used to have some encoding boxes in-house to encode the videos. So it worked pretty well for like 7 to 8 years. But right now, we are creating 3 or 4 times more videos every year. So it's becoming part of the core business of the company to basically create more videos and expose more videos on the homepage, on the mobile, on the desktop, and like all the platforms. So this like encoding boxes was like, it was really hard to scale. We needed to buy new boxes. And this is basically, I mean, we still need to pay for like people to maintain us these boxes. And we just decided to create a new team and go to the cloud. So we created this Media Factory team to achieve like fast encoding. We had like, with the setup box, with these encoding boxes, we had like a queue of videos. So when we had like a journalist trying to encode a video to publish, like he needed to wait for this queue, like to bring the video to get encoded. And this is not acceptable because sometimes you have like Obama's speech and you want to publish as soon as possible. So a queue is not like, it should not be part of the process. So we bootstrapped this team, Media Factory, to create a pipeline which provides like fast encoding, scalability, and reliability. So this is basically like the components that we are working at. Like on the corner, you can see the technology. So it's basically a set of microservices in Go. We are using Go a lot at the company, especially for like the backend services. It's kind of like, it's being the standard of the company to use Go on the backend services. All of the APIs, they are all written in Go or are switching to Go. And the only component that we have on the stack that is not Go is the client in JavaScript. So I will not explain in details all of these components, but I'll like give you a briefly description of all of them. So basically, this Media Factory client, which is written in JavaScript, is just a component that you plug in the browser to upload the video files, the raw content. Like after the footage, we have people like creating like the videos, like the raw videos, and they want to encode these videos so people can watch on desktop and mobile and like TVs and all of the platforms. So like the journalist and the editor, they create a video, they send the video to the storage. We are using S3 right now. So it basically like on the browser, it uploads the video, and then the video gets transcoded by this API. Then we send to the distribution API, and the distribution API is sent to the CDN, from the storage to the CDN. Right now, we are using Akamai, but there is a lot of teams at the company trying to use Fastly. So we have plans to try to use Fastly, not only for the on-demand videos, but for the live streaming as well. All of these components are on Amazon. We use EC2 for all of these microservices. And we are also planning to move to GCP. The whole company is trying to move to the Google Cloud Platform. So it's part of the roadmap. And the interesting part is that all of the logics for the New York Times, like the metadata, the title of the video, description, meta tags, and like stuff for recommendations, for search, all of this stuff is on the Media Factory API. So with this, we can basically open source all of the other components, because like all of the important stuff that we have for the business rules of the company are on the Media Factory API. So we have a blog post about this pipeline. It's like the address is this. You can go there. I can talk a little bit more when we finish the whole content, but it's a pretty interesting blog about the story of like why the old systems was not working very well, and why we decided to move to Go, why we decided to create all of this stuff. I want to talk a little bit more about the transcoding API, which is kind of like the most important part of this pipeline. And the transcoding API, it does not transcode the video itself, but it just plugs with encoding services. So we have accounts in all of these services, and we can basically decide which encoding service we should use based on the job. So let's say that I have a news clip, so I have this Obama speech that I've said that we need to publish as soon as possible. We can use the one that is faster, but probably more expensive. Sometimes we have some videos that are like evergreen content that we can just like encode, and it can take days to encode, and we can use like the slow but cheap to encode this kind of video. So for example, the 360 videos that we have, we use the slow but cheap. And for the news clips, for example, all of this Obama and Trump and all of this stuff that's happening, we use the one that's faster. And it's open source. It's on GitHub. So if your company is planning to like encode videos, instead of integrating with encoding services, you can encode with the transcoding API, and we can do the same as we are doing. So you can basically like select any of those encoding services that we have. There's more people sending pull requests to integrate. So there's like Bitmoving, which is a really like strong encoding company that's trying to integrate with this transcoding API as well. And I'm pretty sure that we have more people trying to integrate with this API. And basically like how to integrate, like how can we have just one API that like trigger jobs in all of these encoding services? We created two concepts. One is the preset, and another one is the job. I will explain a bit like what is a preset and what is a job. So this is a preset. Basically, it's a JSON file. You can pass all the providers that you want to create this preset. So for example, for this one, we are using MP4, 720p video. We are using the H.264 codec. And this bit rate is the quality of the video. This one is 1 megabit, which is not a good quality, but this is just like an example. So for example, every time that you want to encode one video using like 720p, 1 megabits per second, using MP4 and all of this spec, you can use this preset, no matter like what is the source and what's the destination. And on the job, you specify, okay, so I want to use this provider, this is the source, this is the destination, And these are the outputs. So you can see like the two, like the first and the second are MP4 files, and the others are HLS. HLS stands for HTTP live streaming, and is a protocol created by Apple. So if you want to play your videos on iOS devices, you need to have HLS outputs. So HLS is basically, if you have like this adaptive streaming, if you have a connection that is really like, it floats a lot, you want to use HLS because the quality of the video will like fluctuate accordingly to your connection. So we use HLS right now. We're using HLS for everything, not only for iOS devices. We're using for the desktop computers as well. But we sometimes use MP4 files for people that are using like old browsers or old like OS. We still encode one video in WebM using VP8, only for people that are using Windows XP and Firefox. It's like less than 1% of the audience. So just a recap, the old system worked well for almost 10 years. It's not working well anymore. The new system is a set of microservices in Go. We want fast encoding, scalability, and reliability. The transcoding API is just a wrapper, and you can use in your company, and there is this preset and encoding jobs specifications to use this transcoding API. So my motivation for Snickers. So as I said, I moved from like JavaScript to Go. And when I joined the team, the whole team was fluent in Go. We have a bunch of really good people working with Go. But I didn't know not only like one line of code in Go. So it was like I freaked out, and I needed to get up to speed. I only had like 2 weeks to get up to speed. And when I started to see the code, we already had some of these components in place. Like the acquisition API was already done. The distribution API was already done as well. And I had a bunch of like beginner questions, like why we need to have the test file in the same folder of the code, or why we want to have this, how to deal with interfaces. I had this question. And why can't I just like mock objects on my test files? And like table-driven tests, I mean, it sounds weird to me. So I decided to create another encoding service, like the encoding.com that we have, like the integration on the transcoding API. I wanted to just create an open source alternative. I really like open source, and I learned a lot with open source. So I decided to basically bootstrap this encoding service in Go, which is basically an alternative to these paid services. I'm a friend of almost all of the owners of these companies, but I decided to like take my chance and create one that's open source. And I think that the most strong motivation is that we can add features anytime. So for example, we are receiving tons of emails of people like asking us to have subtitles on the videos. So I decided to like try to use the Google speech-to-text API and extract the audios and send to this speech API and see if the result was good enough or not. It's not, but we can still use this for the search and for the like recommendation systems. So let's say that you hear one phrase from Obama and you want to find this video, you can just like type this phrase, and we can use this as metadata to like put you on the seek point of this phrase. And all of this stuff we can't do on the encoding.com side, on the Zencoder side, but we can with Snickers. So this is interesting to have on our pipeline. Another thing is like the thumbnails on the seek bar. When you put like your pointer to the seek bar, you want to see the preview of like the seek point. And we can do this with Snickers. And if we want to do with these providers that we pay, we need to wait for the roadmap of them, or we can like pay for them to create this feature. So I decided to create like on the Snickers side. And also, I've heard a lot of people from Netflix doing a lot of crazy stuff with codecs. And if I want to like have all of this stuff like on the bleeding edge at the New York Times, I need to have ownership of the whole pipeline. I need to have ownership of the FFmpeg calls, of like the codec calls. If I want to use, for example, VP9, which is the next generation codec with MP4 container, I will need to have like access to this other side. So that's why I created Snickers. I was looking at some organizations on GitHub, and I was eating one Snickers, so I just found out that Snickers, the organization, like github.com/Snickers, was available. So that's why it's the name. So basically how it works, it's a RESTful API. I wanted to create this as close as possible to the transcoding API, so I can just like plug it on the transcoding API at the times. So these are the endpoints. So we have like this create jobs, list jobs. We can create presets, list presets, and I think it's yeah. So the delete preset was a pull request. I didn't have this. I think I didn't have the get job details. It was pull request. I also have a database to store the presets and store the jobs. It's right now we can use MongoDB, or we can use just like a memory. It's like a hash map. It's already like in place. But if you want to write a driver for like Redis, it's really straightforward. And then there's the pipeline. So on the Snickers, we have the downloaders, uploaders, and encoding engines. And this pipeline, this component over here, is just this. So we set up a job. We find the right downloader for the job. So right now we have S3, FTP, and HTTP. So let's say that your raw content, your raw video, is on S3 bucket. Like you are gonna get the downloader that knows how to download the file from the S3 bucket. You find the right encoding engine. Right now, we only have one encoding engine. It's a wrapper for FFmpeg. I will talk a little bit more about it. And then you have this upload function. So if your raw video is on S3 and you want to send the output files to FTP, you can do that. At the same time that if you have your raw file on HTTP and you want your destination files on S3, you can do like basically the same. And moving to the encoding engines, as I said, we only have this FFmpeg binding. I used CGO. I don't know if you guys already tried to do some stuff with CGO. But it's just like a way to call C functions from Go, interact with C code using Go. And I use this FFmpeg wrapper. It's not my project. I sent some pull requests, but I'm not the owner. So this guy basically created some wrappers, some functions in Go that is actually just like an alias to FFmpeg calls. So this is just like one example of a C code. This is actually the wrapper for the HLS. This guy that knows how to create this, like this output that you can fluctuate between the levels. It's long. I will not explain anything of this. I will just try to do a demo. The last time I've tried to do a demo, it was really embarrassing. I mean, nothing worked. I've promised myself that I would never do a demo again, but I'm breaking the promise. Let me. So basically, we have Snickers running on my machine. So I can do a get request to the presets. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So I'm on the, I can list the presets. I don't have any preset. I can create a preset like this. So this is an MP4 preset with 1 megabits per second using H.264. So I can create doing a post, passing the preset.json. It's created. I only have 9 minutes. So if I list the presets, the preset is already there. So I had this job, which has the input, the destination, and the preset. Basically, that's it. So I want to encode this video using the preset that we just created and send through FTP to my blog server. So I will create the job. Okay, so the job is here. It generates one ID. So you can just like get this ID and do a HTTP post. You can do a start. It's running, so let's just see how it goes. So you can see here that it's like downloading from the HTTP. It's now encoding. And hopefully it will upload to this FTP on the top. So right now I don't have progress for the upload. This is one issue on GitHub, so if you want to help me on having this progress, I'll be really happy. Yeah, it's finished. So let's see if it's on. So the output is here. It's basically the input plus the preset. So I will just run a simple HTTP server and try to play this. The simple HTTP server is like really bad, so it's tough to play the video. Anyway, the video is playable. Believe me, it's just, okay, I think if I serve it, if I just move it from here to the, I'll be able to play it. Oh, it's playing. Let me see if it's playing like here. Five minutes. Anyway, the video is playable, believe me. It's just that I'm not serving the video with Nginx. So let's move to the future. I only have 4 minutes. So my plan is to plug this on the times pipeline. So Snickers will be right here. For that, I need to have multi-bitrate HLS. So right now, Snickers can only generate one HLS level. So we actually can't have this ability to select the right level based on your connection. So I need to fix this as soon as possible. I need to have a Go client because the way that we plug this here is by using a Go client. We needed to write Go clients for all of the others. So we need to write a Go client for Snickers. We already have someone working on this client. It's on github.com/Snickers. And I also want to add another encoding engine using GStreamer instead of FFmpeg. It's just because I think the code is easier to read. I've seen a bunch of wrappers, and I think that it's kind of like easier to maintain. We are hiring. We have a lot of open positions. The videos, they are playable, so we do good stuff that really plays. We have positions on the video team and across the board. So we have positions on the games team, on like API engineers. If you're a front-end developer and you like Node.js, we have positions with Node. So just like talk to me. I will be here on the whole conference. We also have this blog that we host. It's really nice. The CTO is pushing us to publish one post every day about all of the stuff that we are doing. If it's like working well, something like this, this whole Google Cloud Platform migration, HTTPS, 360 videos, the Media Factory, all of this stuff is covered on the blog on these open blogs, and it's actually written by engineers. So you should go and take a look. There's also this Slack that I host. Is for video developers. So if you like to talk about video, about players, about codecs, about Netflix, Dailymotion, Twitch, New York Times, all of these big companies, these nice companies, you can just invite yourself on this videodev.org. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Flavio. And if someone want to ask something to Flavio, anyone?
You can ask anything.
So how was the integration with Seago and FFmpeg?
It is still terrible, and everyone that tries to like run Snickers, they have problems. So if you install FFmpeg with Brew, you need to enable some shared libraries. So this is tough. because I didn't write any documentation for that. So if you go to github.com/sneakers and go to issues and click on the easy ones, I'm waiting for someone to write documentation for installing for development. And it's easy. It's easy to write the documentation. It's tough to like install it for development. I've already have some people from the Times and from outside the Times sending pull requests. So I'll be more than happy to receive your pull requests and like how to install for development.
Have you tried to fork FMPEG processes instead of using CGO?
So the way I'm doing right now, I'm just triggering new Go routines using Go, but the whole process is using CGO. I mean, I know that a bunch of people, they basically create some FFmpeg command lines, and they trigger that. But I wanted to have more freedom to access the frames. So I can do stuff with the frames itself, you know, like, and the for loop, like frame for frame, I want to change the frame, or I want to use, I mean, I just wanted to explore this approach, you know, to call the method calls. So if you go on Snickers/ageLS, is this wrapper for the ageLS. So I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to learn CGO because I didn't know Go, so I needed to learn like Go and CGO. And for example, I wanted to have this freedom to read like frame, like packets, you know. It's just about freedom to have access to the frames itself instead of like just creating command lines.
Hi, Flavio. Can you give us an alternative URL for the video-dev.org because it's down?
The videodev.org. Gonna fix it right now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so thank you, Flavio.